I'm a nerd. And I'm here tonight to stand up for the rights of other nerds.
In the 1984 comedy, Revenge of the Nerds, two computer science students suffered persecution at the hands of the popular kids.
It says nerds get out.
Simply because...
What is a nerd?
They were nerds. 25 years later, revenge hardly seems necessary. Nerds today are doing just fine. It's not that being a nerd is suddenly trendy. The idea of geek chic, epitomized by rocker Elvis Costello, goes back to the late 70s.
It only took my little fingers to blow you away.
No, today, nerd culture is mainstream in our gadgets, in our glasses, in our pop culture. You might say nerd is the new normal. First, let's define our terms.
A nerd can be defined a couple different ways. I mean, it can just be a schoolyard taunt against someone who you want to denigrate in some vague way. Or you can call someone a nerd because it actually refers to something about the way they think. You're talking about a love of rules and systems. Someone who likes to think logically more than they like to think intuitively.
Ben Nugent is the author of a book about nerds. So nerds are not very good at reading between the lines.
Exactly. They're not good at picking up nonverbal cues.
Nugent is an admitted nerd. When did you first discover that you were a nerd?
I think when people started to throw things at me and shout, "Hey, nerd," which probably came around age 7 or 8, I want to say, for the first time.
Throwing things and calling you a nerd, that was very literal.
Yeah, exactly.
So you were able to understand what they were saying.
Maybe they'd been dropping hints for 5 years, and it took a dodgeball hitting my head for me to actually have, like, the revelation.
Of course, it's not always funny growing up a nerdy kid.
I think when I was 9, it was much more of an issue because you've just discovered you've been put in this category and you don't really know what it means.
What being a nerd means, Nugent says, is favoring the rational over instinctual, the cerebral over physical, knowledge over gut, and the practical over stylish. One telltale sign?
Nerds tend to speak in full sentences and very explicitly.
I'm loath to end a sentence in a preposition. Does that make me nerdy?
That does make you very nerdy.
The word nerd first appeared in Dr. Seuss's If I Ran the Zoo in 1950. But Nugent says the portrait of the nerd appeared in literature as early as the 19th century, with characters like the studious and single Mary Bennet in Pride and Prejudice.
Look, Mama, I have just purchased Burke's essay on the sublime and beautiful. You and your books.
And then there's Victor Frankenstein.
He's a scientist who tells his family to leave him alone, won't talk to anybody, and goes up into a tower for a year and just fiddles around with these machines just because he thinks it would be cool to take all these corpse parts and make them into a living creature.
It's alive!
But in a world so reliant on technology, those with the curiosity of a Dr. Frankenstein are more valuable than ever. Nerds, of course, are sometimes called geeks, a term that came into vogue in the 1980s with the rise of Silicon Valley and carries connotations of tech savvy.
I would say all geeks started at some point in their life, probably as kids, taking something apart. And you start asking questions like, how does this work?
Robert Stevens is the founder of Geek Squad.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Take care. Bye-bye.
The army of mobile tech personnel who answer distress calls from those who don't know how their things work. In the internet age, Geek Squad members are something like paramedics.
Geeks love manuals.
Geeks love manuals so much, they read manuals for stuff they don't even own.
Beach reading. Like, just take the manual.
Well, I wouldn't expect to see a geek on the beach, though. I mean, we have a skin issue here.
Of course, most people these days have some basic understanding of technology.
It's the public that's becoming the geek with their Xboxes and their Blackberries and their iPods. Geeks are actually becoming more normalized. We're in this interesting space right now where, you know, the lines are kind of blurring.
Our whole universe was in
If we're all kind of nerds and geeks now, that may explain geekery's star turn on mainstream's main stage, primetime network television.
Rock, paper, scissors, scissors, fuck!
CBS's The Big Bang Theory, about two brilliant physicists and their beautiful next-door neighbor, has emerged as one of TV's hottest sitcoms.
Congratulations, you're officially one of us.
And the only one with an experimental particle physicist on staff to fact-check the science. Really.
And that equals the change in kinetic energy.
Chuck Lorre and Bill Prady are the show's creators.
We had talked for a long time about guys I knew back in my previous career as a computer programmer, and who were wonderful, brilliant people that sometimes had difficulty fitting into the real world.
He told stories about guys that could figure pi to 80 decimals like that, but couldn't do a tip in a restaurant because there are too many variables.
Hey, rolling, slided.
That struck me as a wonderfully different kind of character.
Characters that were once punchlines are now sometimes leading men.
What's so unusual about me having a date?
Well, statistically speaking.
All right.
Jim Parsons and Johnny Galecki are two of the show's stars.
You guys are the leads in a really popular series, and you're socially awkward.
I think it's cooler than being hip and vapid.
You're absolutely right. So socially awkward is the new...
Oh, geez, I don't want to say cool or...
The new little black dress.
New little black dress.
And these days, socially awkward doesn't mean hiding in your parents' basement. Atom Freeman, yes, Atom, not Adam, and Portland Polston own geek hotspot Brave New World Comics outside L.A.
I think everybody wants to be a geek now, whether they realize it or not. Every TV show, every movie, all the games and books on the shelves are kind of based out of comic books right now. Comics are where it's at. Comics equal geek. Geek equals cool.
At this geek singles night, those looking for love came to flex their pop culture muscles.
Nintendo or PlayStation?
Nintendo.
Look at that. Look at this match.
Why do you think that more people are comfortable with the label and willing to take it on?
Because geeks are bazillionaires. I mean, come on. What richest man in the world? Find me a bigger geek than Bill Gates. Seriously.
But even if nerds have more power than ever before, Ben Nugent isn't ready to declare victory just yet.
It's still a cool kids club.
I think you still need cool kids skills to get to the top in most situations. And by that, I mean the ability to project confidence and to make conversations run smoothly so that people have the illusion that they know you even when they don't.
Nerds and geeks may be mainstream, but cool? That's something else.
We still don't want to be like Bill Gates, even if we have his money.